cheaper one of these in the backyard than it is to a whole home renovation to build a new office. Hi, thank you. More HL Index. Morning.
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 Voltaren Arthritis Pain Gel, the first and only
Morning.
non-steroidal anti-inflammatory gel available over the counter. New Voltaren is arthritis pain relief and gel. Joy of movement.
How's your 4th of July?
Good.
Good. It's been so hot. Oh.
So now I'm a smoother skin in one day. With younger looking skin in just 1 week. And that's what I'm
People some time to get here. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
Motorcycle riders love the road. The Geico loves helping riders get to where they're going. Love even more? Geico is giving new and current customers a 15% credit on their motorcycle policies with the Geico Gift Back. And because we're committed to the long haul, the credit lasts your full policy term. The Geico Gift Back, helping riders focus on the road ahead.
When managing diabetes, you can't always stop for a finger stick. With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, a continuous glucose monitor, you don't have to. In this 1-second scan, you can check your glucose with a smartphone or reader, so you can stay in the moment, no matter where you are or what you're doing. Ask your doctor for a prescription for the Freestyle Libre 14-day system. You can do it without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
I am totally blind. And Non-24 is where my days and nights have a seat, keeping me from the things I love to do. Talk to your doctor and call 844-214-2424.
Ready?
Yes, Neutrogena Ultra Superior protection helps prevent early skin aging and skin cancer with a clean feel. It's the one best for your skin. Focus here, Neutrogena.
Closed captioning brought to you by Page Publishing. We help publish, distribute, and sell your book. Have you written a book and want to publish? Thousands of authors have with Page Publishing. If we decide to publish you, your work ends and ours begins. Call for your free author submission kit. It is the sadistic killer wanted for a series of murders that Killer
Okay, there we go.
sitting in the car.
Okay. Well, we're straight up 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited to talk about lead generation today. Today's class really is, the biggest question is, where do I go when I find people? Where am I going to get my next client? And it's very frustrating when you don't have anybody that you're working with and you feel very unemployed. So lead generation is hugely important, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But it's having systems and tools to create a thriving business. And so some of the things we're going to talk about today are applicable for later. Some of the things that we do to make open houses really great, we're not able to do right now. So we're going to cover a lot of that and talk about some of the changes that we're dealing with right now too. So what you have in your materials, what I sent to you, you've got your workbook. This class has a whole lot of scripts. So if you have some time to just get practicing on some of these, you get more confident when you get really familiar with your scripts, because then you know that nobody is going to be able to ask you a question that you can't feel competent to answer. So that's why scripts are so important, but you have to make them be your own, otherwise you sound like you're reading out of a book, and that's not good. So here's what you've got in your packet today. Other than the workbook, you've got the buyer information sheet and the seller information sheet. And those are just tools that you can use to get as much information as possible when you're first talking with somebody. The NAR Realtor Open House Safety publication is very important. Open houses can be, they can be dangerous if you don't do them correctly. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you want to make sure that you take safety precautions and making sure that you're safe. The open house checklist is awesome. That's a great one to give to your sellers so that they're ready. So you don't show up and have to do dishes when you get there. I've had to do that before. Sample sign-in sheet. Now there are several sign-in sheets. So we've got one that we're using for COVID right now that we have to use for tracing, for our logging. But the sheet that I'm going to give you, I'm going to talk about today because I think it's really effective in getting more information and converting people. And then scripts. Here's your scripts. You've got your sphere of influence and your referral script, your past client script, door knocking, which I wouldn't recommend right now. It might scare people. Versatile lead follow-up. It's like, that is the biggest thing where people fall off is they don't do their follow-up. Open house rapport building. How do you deal with an open house? When you go in a normal time, when you go into an open house, many times you'll find that the agent is in the open house and they just basically say, let me know if you have any questions. And they're not engaging and really trying to make that person a customer. Bless you. The FSBO, contact call, and the package delivery scripts. We're going to talk a lot about for sale by owners today, and there's several different ways that you can approach that. Mainly, two categories of approach is direct and indirect. So we're going to talk about that, and that really depends on what you are comfortable with. The expired listings, reasons that homes don't sell. We're going to talk about the different close. There's a whole lot of different approaches to close somebody, and you can find the one that works better for you and that client just basically by getting to know their personality style, which is another thing we're going to talk about today. And then your thank you and follow-up notes. There's actually a script because people have asked, what should I write? So we put some ideas in there. So that's what's in your packet. And so I'm excited to get started, but before we do that, does anybody have anything good that happened this week?
I have a possible buy-sell. I was a Zillow lead and they're looking to purchase a home and she's got to sell her condo, so I'm going to go meet with her today.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. And anybody else? Let's see what we have in chat here.
Well, it's not related to real estate, but I go to Mount Rushmore tomorrow for 4 days.
Oh, that's exciting.
It is, and actually it's the first vacation. So I started real estate, just a few months back. And before that, I worked 25 years in another industry that this is the first vacation ever that I'm not taking a laptop. I'm not doing any work. So yeah, excited.
That's awesome. I was just up there at Mount Rushmore. We took my parents up there to the KOA. It's beautiful up there. And I do have to tell you, they have a signal. So.
Oh, they have a what?
They have a signal. You can't escape.
Oh, gotcha.
You're going to have to turn your phone off.
Well,
it is so beautiful.
My husband's never seen it, so it's going to be really fun. So.
Oh, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything great over the 4th of July? It was crazy busy.
I'm going to do an open house for someone else this weekekend.
Oh, good. This is great. Yeah. So really, we'll get to talk about this. So good.
Yes.
Good.
I'm trying to find the paperwork that you were sending, that you sent. I'm going through all that training material, and I'm having a hard time locating it. What do you remember? Was it in the most recent email that you sent, or no?
So are you looking for the module number 4 materials?
Uh-huh.
It was 12:15 a.m. on Monday night, I believe I sent that out.
Okay.
Tuesday morning. So
okay.
If you look, and if you don't, then I can resend it to you real quick.
I'm sure. Okay, thanks.
You bet. I want you to be able to follow. Anybody else not find it? I was like the early morning hours I sent that out. My husband was gaming and I was working. So it's like, why not, right? Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Page 1, I need a little input here. We're going to fill in the blanks. So lead generation must never what?
Stop.
Right. Must never stop. You always have to keep going. And it tends to be kind of a challenge for us in our business because when we get really busy and we're working on transactions, we tend to let the lead generation go. And that's why we see all of this up and down in our business. And you're going to be able to learn ways that you can automate and create systems so that your income is more steady than that crazy up and down. Because no blank means no business, right? Yeah, no leads means no business. And by the way, you got to follow up on leads really fast. I think that the numbers like 15 minutes you have to get back with somebody. So that's why it's so important that you have an autoresponder or something if you can't. There is no such thing as too many leads. When you have more than you can handle, it's time to leverage through what? Didn't hear you, Patrick.
Referrals.
Exactly. Or team growth. And some people think that when they get too many leads, it's time to grow your team. And that is really not necessarily the case. The team is more than just sharing leads. In fact, most teams don't provide leads. So if you're looking at building a team, it isn't necessarily because you have so many leads. It helps, but it's because you want to do something bigger. And that's a whole different class. But referral is a great way. So when you get too many leads, then there are people in your office, and we call that wake-up money. If you refer out your people instead of forgetting to call them back, if you're just too busy and you get sign calls and things, give those to other people for a 25% referral fee. Or if you don't have enough going on in your business, you can put it out there to the office. Hey, does anybody need any help? I'll pay 25%. If you have leads you can't follow up with, and I can close them. And that way you can kind of piggyback on some of the experienced agents that are getting sign calls and not following up, because it is happening. It's like burning up dollar bills. The leads come in and they don't follow up. So that is something that you can do. This is an important one. You will see the results from the activities you do today in how many days? 90. It is 90 days. And so that's really important. I like when you're getting ready to go on vacation and you decide that, that's your main focus. And so you spend like the 2 weeks getting ready to go on the vacation and you're not really doing your lead generation and you let things go. Then when you come back, 90 days from then, you're going to have a lull in your business. So you want to make sure that you have those systems and tools in place so that you don't run into that problem. You see it, typically people are really busy in the summer and then they have, they slow down in the fall. But I say you really want to pick up in the fall, because 90 days from fall is Christmas. And that's when board dues are due, your E&O is due, your license is renewable. I don't know why they put all of our expenses into the most expensive month of the year, but it's true. So be sure that when fall comes around, kick it into gear, because that's when you're really going to need it to come and pay all those bills, plus Christmas. So the only way to have consistent lead generation is to have lead generation systems. It's systems. And a system is anything that's repeatable. That's all it is. So once you put it in place, then it will be automatic for you. And so we're going to talk about some of those things that work for you. Are you using any lead generation systems now? And one would be like if you use an automated touch resource like Boomerang or something like that sends them out and makes a touch for you, automated. There are different programs that provide things. I'm part of the Buffini program. I'm a Buffini mentor and I'm also a member. And every month he sends the email and the snail mail item that we send. So we don't have to think about it at all. So that's what you really need. You want to make sure that you have your plan in place and then you're just executing every month. And when you get too busy, then you can get help, because a system is something that's repeatable. It is structured so you can get somebody else to help you with it. So anyway, we're going to talk about systems today, and that is, I think lead generation systems are one of the most important things you can have to sustain a thriving business. So there's a difference between receiving leads and generating leads, and that the receiving leads is more of a passive activity. And so when you're just waiting for leads to happen, it's unreliable. People call that having the wolf at the door. Very uncomfortable situation. You want to be more into a lead generating attitude. You want to go out and get them, and you're not waiting for them to come into you. Some examples of lead receiving. What do you think? Any ideas of what lead receiving activities might be?
Wasn't there a mention of getting some from Zillow?
Absolutely, that's lead receiving. And also, when you are sitting on floor time, then you're waiting for the phone to ring for you. You're waiting. You're at the mercy of the other person to send you the business. So you are waiting. It's the waiting game, and that can feel really uncomfortable because you don't have any control. It's great when you receive leads. That's wonderful. But the best thing that you can do to really make sure you have a constant and steady business is to generate your own leads, and that's purposeful. And it really is something that you can get active in, and you can make a difference every day. You're not waiting, you're in control. The market determines the best way to generate leads. There are systems that are marketing based and prospecting enhanced. And we have a lot of that right now because we're in a pretty busy market. We're not having to do as much prospecting because there's a lot of buyers out there that are getting in touch with us. That's not the way it always is. And also when you're newer, it's much more productive to prospect, which is a two-way conversation or a two-way communication, than to market, which is a one-way communication. Marketing is when I put my face on something and I send it out to people and I wait for people to call me. That creates the lead receiving. Marketing does. Prospecting is lead generating, where you're actually getting in touch with people and asking for business. So it's cheap too. It costs money to advertise and get your name out there. It doesn't cost any money to get in touch with people. So it's the very best thing you could do to get business going and to keep business going. So the best lead generation systems, there are some rules of thumb that we look at. And so when you're setting up your own systems, here are the things that you want to consider. Dealing with today's business should never take precedence over growing tomorrow's business. And what that means is when you are so busy closing current deals or working on current transactions with current clients that you're erasing all your lead generation time and you're not making your phone calls, you're going to run into a problem. So that's making today's business have precedence over tomorrow's. And what you have to do is erase and replace. So it's very important that you put out fires and things if you're working on a transaction. But instead of just not doing the lead generation, you actually need to put it in your calendar for another time. Erase and replace. So if you don't get it done today, then you do it tomorrow. And there's a certain amount that you want to manage, contacts to make every week in order to meet your numbers. And those are all in your business plan. So when you really are purposeful and you plan for that, your business will have a much more steady income line and less volatility. So your lead generation must be systematic, consistent, and sustainable, which means that you don't want to spend tons of time every month thinking of what you're going to do. You want to get it all figured out when you do your business planning for the year, and then put it in your calendar the days that you're supposed to execute, and then go from there. You don't want to spend a ton of time always figuring out new stuff to do because it wastes so much of your energy to do that. You must use proven systems to capture and retain market share and mind share, and that is really important. Studies have been done, and Hobbs Herder did the studies several years ago. They did them in different geographical areas, and what they did is they sent materials. They used fictitious names. They sent marketing materials to different areas at different intervals of time, different occurrences, and what they found is that it took 8 touches in 8 increments of time for people to remember you. And so that's really important in order to create mind share. And what we call mind share is when somebody thinks of a realtor, we want you to come up in their mind. We want you to have the biggest realtor mind share because everybody knows 2 or more. realtors in their lives. They do. Everybody does. That's statistical. So you want to be the one that has the most mind share that they think of. And that means that you have to be in touch with them more often than every 16 days. The studies show that even your family will forget that you're a realtor about every 16 days. So you have to remind them. That's why there are so many touch programs where you have a snail mail once a month and an email once a month, because that covers everything that, you know, the increments of time, so that they are reminded of you before they lose their mind share. And then quarterly, when you send something that is, we call it lumpy, which means it goes up on the fridge, it's a calendar, or it's something they want to save, like all the farmers markets that are open right now, if they are. But those types of things that they save and they keep up, the lumpy mail, those are great to do once a quarter. So that's all in our business plan. And I am going to redo that class because it didn't record. So if anybody wants to do it again, you certainly can. I'll get it scheduled. But the most important thing is you want them to think of you when they think of real estate. And when they hear somebody thinking of real estate, you want your name to come into their mind. Like, hey, have you talked to Terry? You really should give her a call, because you know she's a great realtor, and you want people to have that what is it, the reticular response when they hear the real estate going on, they think of you. So that's what we work for with our lead generation systems, is to be number one. So you use both marketing and prospecting in your business, and you kind of pay attention to the market. Right now, when there are so many buyers for every listing, when you put out there a marketing advertisement or something, maybe on Facebook or something for a new listing, you're going to get a response. But that is this market. In a buyer's market, it's totally different, where you might have a listing for months and months, and you've got to get it out there and market that to a lot more people. We don't really do that as much right now because our listings are selling so fast. We're not spending a ton of time marketing. But you market yourself too. And remember, in our listings class, when an agent, when a seller is choosing an agent, the number one thing that they look at about the agent is reputation. And so that is one of the things that you get a benefit from being with RE/MAX, because RE/MAX has such an awesome reputation. You have automatic credibility when you walk through their door. So that's something that you have by being one of the best, that you're a new agent with RE/MAX, because you have to be the best of the best to be a new agent with RE/MAX. So you want to be purposeful and you want to be proactive. So if you are, it depends on what we're lead generating for. Do you work with first-time buyers? You know, where are you going to prospect first-time buyers? There are a lot of different programs that are available right now, like First.io. Does anybody have First.io from RE/MAX?
I do.
Yeah. I think, Tammy, you said you had like 3,000 3-star people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I recommend that if you haven't seen First.io, that you look into it, because what it does is it takes all the contacts on your phone and it rates them based on artificial intelligence and predictive analytics on what they have been doing online. And everybody's online right now because they're at home mostly. And it tells you 1, 2, or 3 stars. A 3-star if they are somebody that's probably looking to buy or sell. And we've tested it. We've called people. We've called out of our database when we first got it, and we said, you know, we have a new program, and we want to see its accuracy. You are coming up as a 3-star person, and we haven't even talked to you, but it says you might be looking for a property. Is that true? And it's like, well, we've been thinking about an investment property. It's interesting because it's so accurate. And then when you get on there, sometimes it tells you, oh, you lost. One of your people listed with somebody else. It does tell you that, which is interesting. But it also tells you, congratulations, you won because you closed a listing with your person or a deal. It's really smart. It's totally amazing. So First.io, and there are a lot of webinars and things to learn about it on RE/MAX, Max Center. So great little tool there. But the thing is, you want to be really purposeful. So if you are lead generating for first-time home buyers, you're going to look in a different place than if you were lead generating for buyers for luxury listings. So you think about that, and you want your message to go to the right place. And then you have to set yourself apart with your unique value proposition. That is the exercise that I sent you after the first module, the unique value proposition, where you go through and you choose, there are 3 different sets of words where it's, you know, you choose the words that are most like you, how you most feel, and what your values are, and you put it all together, the top 5 of each and how it benefits your clients, and then you take the top 5 of those 15 and how that benefits your clients, and then you use that to create your value proposition, because everybody comes from a different background and everybody has something unique that you can talk about, so that when somebody knows 2 or 3 other realtors, you're the one that has the best script that's really got it going on. And so I recommend, if you haven't done that unique value proposition exercise, that you do it. It's really fun. It's very interesting, and get somebody else to fill it out as well. Maybe a significant other or a really good friend to do it for you as well, and mark the words, because sometimes we don't know ourselves as well as other people do. And if you didn't get it or you didn't find it, just let me know. I'll resend it. It's a really fun thing to do. And then you define your audience. And you're not going to look for first-time home buyers, you know, in probably a luxury neighborhood. You usually are going to find people, you know, in the most common area. So right now, like according to Amanda DeVito yesterday, our average price is $525 now, and everything under that's flying off the shelf. So if you are prospecting for somebody for a listing that was, you know, less than $525, you're definitely going to look in a different place than you would if you were prospecting for somebody that was $800. And I mean, that's kind of 101, but really it's purposeful. But when you get your message and you craft your message, it's different for who you're looking for. And you have to craft a message that appeals to your audience. So you think about who you're trying to attract. And sometimes when you're just starting out in business, you're not even sure who you really want to work with. But I can tell you that I don't do much with investors, because I'm not a real great cap rate numbers person. They have no emotional side. I like to sell emotionally and get all excited about, you know, that's me. And so I've dealt with mostly first time and move up buyers, not investors. When I get investor referrals, I give them to somebody else on my team, because I'm not the one. So you find out what you do really well. And I love making a positive difference in people's lives. That's one of my, my mission statements. So, and investors are they just don't get excited. I've got too much I need people to get excited. Anybody else work with investors a lot? If you do, it's a great thing. My husband has an investor that has done 23 properties so far. And I mean, and they sell them, they buy them, but it's all about the money. And there's no, it's, you know, it doesn't matter what it looks like. You should see some of these places. Anyway, it's just not that much fun for somebody that doesn't enjoy a lot of numbers and cap rates. So you got to figure out what you really like and go after it, so that you feel like you're really enjoying your job and your career. So that is, those are really things to look at when you're putting all of your systems in place. So when you're thinking of your business plan and you're thinking of what you're going to do and what you're going to send out, those are the things that you want to consider. Who it's going to, what your message is, being consistent, and getting to them, and not just waiting for them to get to you. Which takes us to marketing versus prospecting. I think you understand, and we've talked about it. It's passive to market. It really is. That's waiting. That is lead receiving, and prospecting is generating. And prospecting, remember from our first class, prospecting is anything that's just two-way communication. So when you're crafting your message and you're putting your materials out there, 2 things you want to have. You want it to be memorable. So you've got to have something important you're telling them, and you want it to be persuasive, which is typically a call to action. So what's a good call to action for a seller? There's a #1 call to action for a seller. Do you know what it is? It is find out the value of your home. So you see that all the time. Go to my website, find out, you know, we've got buy side. We've got all kinds of different tools that people can use. HomeBot, we love HomeBot. You get HomeBot through your HMA mortgage professional. It's amazing. HomeBot is another amazing tool. And so those, you want to be persuasive, and that is a call to action. So on almost every seller communication, you want to have, if you'd like to have updated value of your home, just let me know. I'll get it over to you. With buyers, now buyers tend to look for deals. And so what we do for our call to action for our buyers is we have our listing of the week or deal of the week, and we'll choose a listing that we just like as a team. We'll choose something that we think is a good deal, and we'll send it out. So we have a list. If you'd like to subscribe to our deal of the week, our team's pick of the week, and people like that. So you think of what it is they want to know. Buyers want deals. Sellers want to know what their house is worth. So your action item has to really focus on what they want. So marketing is passive, remember? So let's think about that for a minute and answer these questions whenever you're going to send a marketing message, even if it's going to be a bus bench or something like that. Who are you trying to attract? So who are you wanting to get their attention? And what do they want to know? What will get their attention? Rates right now for buyers, what is it, 2 3/4 or something like that? It's the lowest it's ever been. And some buyers think they need like 20% down. There are programs now, we've seen just through listening to our HMA updates that they're loosening some of the regulations and programs are coming back. And buyers, there are a lot of them out there that think that they need 20% or perfect credit and they can't get into a house without it, and you've got to educate them because there are so many people that can buy a house that don't even know they can. So it is your job to get out there and help them learn how to buy a house. It's a scary thing. They really don't know. So that's what you want to teach them. Do you want repeat business, referral business, or are you looking for name recognition? So if you want repeat business, you typically market to your sphere of influence, right? If you want referral business, you typically get that from your sphere of influence. And we look at the numbers. I mean, 41 to 43% are using a referral, whether it's a seller or a buyer. So you definitely want to focus on your sphere of influence for that. And name recognition. I would never recommend that you go out and get a billboard or do something really expensive like that, although you do see it around town. I've never, ever heard of anybody making a ton of money on a billboard. But you do want to get your face out there, and you want that name recognition. And I would say you would never want to go do shopping carts or anything like that unless it was in a geographical area where you were looking to really build name recognition, because you will never really get a call off of a bench or a shopping cart. It's just name recognition. So that's why you would do that. So you would only do it if you were really working an area really hard. And what impression do you want to create, or what call to action? We talked about that a little. The impression you want to create in their minds, really, you want them to have a sense of urgency, right? So we don't know how long these rates will last. So you want to have a call to action with a bit of a sense of urgency and a special offer. Now, what special offer can you make? Well, your service, first of all, is impeccable. But special offers, you don't always have to do it, but you can. You can offer special deals when you're doing your marketing message, like I'll give you a credit on your appraisal of $500 if you close before the end of the year. You can do that. You can have certificates. You can do a booth and give out certificates for $1,000 towards closing costs. There's things you can do as long as it shows up on the CD. You can't do anything under the table or outside of the transaction, but there's a lot that you can offer. We always do free home warranties. Close a deal with our team and you get a free home warranty that will cover you for 14 months. So we do things like that, little coupons and certificates.
So, Heidi, quick question on that. So if you're marketing, say, to your sphere of influence, and can you include something in there that says, that you can market like a free home warranty? Can you do that?
Yeah, you absolutely can. So you can, and people get confused about free things. You can't say to your sphere of influence, I'll give you a free home warranty if you refer somebody. You can't pay for a referral. You can't say, I'll give you a gift certificate if you refer somebody, but you can say to your sphere of influence, hey, if you know of anybody that wants to buy or sell a house, let them know that I'm providing a free warranty if they close before the end of the fourth quarter or whatever. So you can do that for your
Okay.
client. Yeah, you can. That makes sense?
Can you include some of that in like your review from today? Just
Well,
because-
you will have this link.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
We're recording. Absolutely. And I'm always available if anybody ever wants to give me a call. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what's legal and what's not for giving referral gifts, because you want to recognize people, but then you don't want to be, in jail for it. So we have to make sure that we do it legally. So let me ask you this. Has anybody done a personality profile such as DISC or Myers-Briggs? Like that? They're hugely important. One of the things that we really suffer with in real estate is not necessarily understanding why somebody is on the fence, or they're asking a lot of questions. They may not trust us with our data, and sometimes we take that personally. You can actually use your same style with two different people and get two totally different reactions. So understanding personality style is really, really important. And I am a certified master behavioral analyst for DISC, and I absolutely love DISC, and it is something that I can help you with. I give classes. I haven't figured out how to do it on Zoom yet, so I don't have a class scheduled. But I have a video I want to play for you that I think is really insightful. So let me share my screen here. And I practiced this, so hopefully it'll work. Let's see here. I'm not there yet. Okay, now, Zoom, I'm learning Zoom. It's getting better though. There, here we go. So, why won't it show me? I apologize for the delay. This is a complicated one because of my my little session here. Okay, so I want this to play. So I don't know if it's going to let me, guys.
You got it. You got it.
Did you see anything? I don't know. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to share anyway. I'm going to try, and then you can tell me if you can see this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then hopefully you'll hear it too. But why won't it go? Play. I'm sorry. I'm there we go. Maybe that'll work. Yes. Good.
Put the volume up. Heidi,
Yes.
Can you raise the volume?
Yeah, let's see, I think. Oh. I can't find it. Okay, I hope you were able to see that. Did you see it?
Yes, but we couldn't hear it.
Well, that stinks. Okay, well, so basically what it's talking about is the different sales styles and the way that you as an agent are different. And Judy Ledoux at Remax International has a video that's at remax.net. So I'm going to try this again because this is dealing with the customers. So that one talked directly to the agent. So I want to talk, and I'm going to go ahead. This is a little different. That one was really hard because it was through a different video system. So I'm going to try to make this one work better, and it's a little shorter. So let me go ahead, and this should work. So go to, let me just, I have this all open from this morning. So here we go. Remax portal, there's Judy Ledoux. And then, so it does, when I share screen, when I share the video, it does give me, advanced sharing options. There is a volume thing with sharing, and it's kind of, this whole thing is kind of difficult, but I'm going to try this. So there's Judy. Okay, so you can see Judy. And then on my controls, share computer sound. I think this will work. So tell me if you can hear this now.
The most important things in real estate, I believe, is understanding what the different personality types are that you're dealing with. See, every single personality type needs different information in order to make their decision. And I believe that your job as an agent is to make it easy for others to make the decision that they've already decided to make. And what that means is you have to understand what each one needs. And so if we were to break it into 4 personality types, and most of you will kind of recognize these types pretty quickly, but the first one's what we call the expressive personality. Now, your expressive personality is the friendly buyer or sellers. They're the ones that laugh, they smile, they talk really fast. In fact, they talk on and on and on, sometimes more than we want them to talk. Those are called expressive sellers and buyers. We also have what we call the amiable. Now, the amiable sellers and buyers are also emotional decision makers, but they're the ones that are more shy and more passive. They're really nice. We love them to death, but they're going to be a little more quieter. Now, the key to working with either one of these 2 personalities, anyone that's very friendly and outgoing or very shy, but we call them the emotional decision makers, is that their primary need is to like you as their agent. And they need to know that you like them as well. And so on that listing presentation, it's important to do some chit chat and some small talk. Smile, be engaging, and let them know that you truly care about them and their house and getting it sold. And sometimes if you're an agent who's more logical or more business-like, this is kind of hard for you because you just want to go in and get business done. But do you know that by just going in and being business-like with a person who's highly emotional, that it doesn't feel very good to them. And so even though you might be the very best agent to market their home, if they don't feel good about you, they aren't going to choose you. Now, the other personalities are our 2 logical decision makers. Now, the first of the logical decision makers for most realtors drives them crazy. It's the engineer personality. We call it the analytical personality. Most agents have no idea how to work with that personality. And the reason for that is that 70% of all sales agents are actually expressive in nature. The expressive personality is actually considered to be what's called the natural salesperson. So if most sales agents are expressive, the opposite of expressive is analytical. Expressive moves fast, analytical moves slow. Expressive flies by the seat of their pants. The analytical is very detail-oriented. And expressive has an attitude of if there's checks in the checkbook, there's money in the bank. The analytical has an attitude, well, actually the analytical can balance their checkbook to the cent each month and think it's a victory. I, on the other hand, usually close out my account if I need to know how much money's in there. I certainly don't usually balance it to the penny. And so that analytical personality is somewhat of a challenge for most expressive agents. Here's what I learned a long time ago. They can actually be quite easy because you have to realize that what they're thinking is everything with them is logical. So if you think logically, if you go into their house and the first thing that you're doing is smiling and trying to be friendly, right away their defenses are up because they believe that you're going to try to use your charm and your smiles to get their business. So if you notice that that person is more businesslike and they're not smiling, then you should maintain a businesslike appearance as well. The analytical personality wants to know how you arrived at this information. See, imagine this. If you just show up at their house and say, I've done my research and I know what your house is worth before I even arrived here tonight or saw the inside of it, logically speaking, they're thinking, how could you know what my house will sell for when you haven't even seen it? Or for a buyer, knowing that there's thousands of listings on the internet, and you say to the buyer, I'm the expert, and these 4 listings best suit your needs. You can't do that. So you have to be able to say, here's the range I worked in, and here's how I chose the properties that I compared your home to. And so we all print out pages and pages of computer paper, and most of the time it ends up in the garbage. My rule of thumb is this: take all the computer paper with you to the house, because when you have an analytical personality, you want to pull it out and say, I first started with the subdivision, and there were 70 homes that sold over the past year, so I decided to narrow it down to the last 6 months. In the last 6 months, there were 42 homes that sold, but 12 of them were exactly like yours. Now, through talking to the agents or through previewing those properties, I came up with these 6 properties, but let me explain why, and then I'm going to allow you to give your input or ask questions. See, when the analytical personality can logically see your process for arriving at the price, and then you can use a phrase such as, based on what buyers are paying for homes like yours in the marketplace, what do you think your home is going to sell for? They are far more likely to buy into the price range that you've picked out for them. The last one is the driver, and they're tough. But the driver's the one that says, look, you know what? I don't need all that stuff. Just give me the bottom line. Give me the price. And sometimes they're a little intimidating. But I've learned that if we do the presentation backwards, they're easy. So instead of doing your presentation, say, Mr. or Mrs. Driver, of course, insert their names. Here's what I'd like to do tonight with your permission. Can I start with the money? I mean, normally I give you a presentation, but I'd just like to start and tell you what I've discovered and what I think your home is worth based on what other homes are selling for. And if you and I can agree on price and terms, then I'd like to show you how I'm going to get your home sold. You'll see them instantly smile and think, wow, my kind of agent, because again, we're doing exactly what they want us to do up front. So again, the rule of thumb is if they're logical, give them the facts, give them the money, and don't worry about schmoozing them over. But if they're emotional, they need to like you. And so remember those tips, and it should help you get your next listing a lot easier.
Okay, hopefully you saw that. So basically, what you see there is that there are 4 different personality types, and this actually goes back to before Hippocrates. And so it's really important that you can understand those personality types so that you can adjust your behaviors to serve them better. Like Judy was saying, if you go into a listing with an analytic style, like the engineer, the data oriented, the bookkeeper, and you just chit chat and you're really animated and you know, not to the point, then you lose credibility. If you go into a people person, a really, you know, high I person into their environment, and you go straight to business and you don't spend time building rapport, then you lose credibility. So you could act the same and lose credibility with one and gain credibility with the other. And that's why it's so important that you understand how to adjust your behaviors so that you can gain credibility with all of your clients. And so that is a different class that I teach, and I'm going to figure out how to do it. I usually do it, we have like 20 or 30 people, and we go in different groups and stuff, which we just can't do right now. But what I can offer you, if you're interested in doing a DISC assessment, I am a provider of the Wiley DISC, which is the #1 DISC. It's the original. They can't copyright a theory. That's why there are other DISC programs. But this one is adaptive. It is 93.3% accurate, and it will basically take you through the questions until it absolutely knows. That's how it's adaptive, so that you won't error out on your answers. And you may have to answer a lot more questions if it's not sure. The base is like 79 questions is where you start. But it's a really awesome program. And then you get a 26-page report, which tells you not just what your style is, but the different styles you're going to have the most challenge with and how you can adjust some of your behaviors to be more effective with those people. And I'm happy to do that. I can give you the assessment and you can take it and we can validate it one-on-one. So it is available, and I'll send you that information when I send the editable docs if it's something that you're interested in doing, because it makes a huge difference in your business. You're going to find that the C personality, and this is really true, if anybody's been in the tech business, the C personality is the hardest to deal with because they question everything. And we tend to feel like they're questioning us, but that really isn't the truth. It's their natural ability, or their natural style is to question. And so try not to take it personally when you run into that type of person. And you know that person is going to be like an engineer, or they're going to be a bookkeeper, or they're going to be, you know, somebody that deals with data and really specific, you know, IT people are typically there. S is the style that we see most often in the general community. Like 30% of the people out there are S personalities, which are super sweet people. They're the nicest, I think, of all the different styles. But they don't like to be pushed. The change is really hard for them, and they take time making decisions. And so if you are you know, you've got an urgent situation, contracts competing, they have to make urgent decisions. So you have to help them and help them to be comfortable with that. And then you've got your D personalities, and those are those people that they don't want to read they want bullet points. And if you're like blah, 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 and you just keep on and on with details and they just want bullet points, they're gonna like leave. They don't want you to come anymore. Once I had an investment, I'm a D. So I'm a DI actually. So I had this, an investment guy at the bank, and he would go through all of these, and he did my stocks, and he went through all the details of the stocks, and that's why I hired him. I didn't want to know the details of the stocks. Actually, I changed banks and investment brokers because he wouldn't quit giving me all the details. I'm a D, I wanted bullet points. So I didn't want to meet with him anymore. And so you have to understand that. You might be the person that wants to give somebody all this information, but what if they don't want it? And what if you're not a person, you're a bullet point person, and you have somebody that wants all this information? Those are things you need to know. So you've got to be able to understand your person. And there are lots of really easy ways that you can understand what people are, just in the way that they talk. And so I would love to do that class, and I can't spend too much time on it right now, but we'll get back with it, and I will figure out how we can do it. But for now, I'll do it with you one-on-one, and I'll teach you. I'll teach you how to do your desk and how to understand your other people. Okay, so let's move on. I'm not going to show you another video. Yeah, enough of that today. But I want you to go to Max Center and listen to this Power of Prospecting with Josh Barker. It's so awesome. He's lead generation. He stands up because it gives you more energy. And he's just really on point. And the reason I show it is because he talks about calling like 20 plus people a day. And our goal is 5. And if you just do that, you're gonna rock it. You're gonna rock it. But listen to his video. It's really good. And also the next video, knocking on doors, that isn't something that we can do real easily right now. But when we get the opportunity, when things are a little safer and people aren't so worried about people coming to their door, it's a great way you can find buyers. A lot of people, you have to have something of value to give them when you go to their door. And you don't necessarily have to knock. When I do my farm areas, I like out of 200, I'll knock on 50 and drop 150. And then a different month, I'll knock on another 50 and drop 150. So it depends. You can figure out your way. But knocking on doors is a very effective way of lead generation. But you do have to have something valuable to give them. And I like to use the cost versus value report. And if you go costversusvalue.com, it is a report that is done by NAR and their affiliates. Every year they do surveys with our clients, and they ask what's the most important, and that's the profile of home buyers and sellers that I gave you. So they do they have all kinds of different things in there that you would be able to get familiar with. But that cost versus value report is really cool because you can print that out and then hand that out, and it tells people what, like if they're going to remodel their bathroom, high, medium, low expense, what they can expect to get back. And I especially love it because it shows a kitchen, a major kitchen repair or remodel. Really, they're only going to get about 70% of that back. So it helps you to have that conversation with them. The cost versus value report is a great thing to hand out. when you're door knocking, because people value it. And door knocking, it can be very, very effective, but you do, like I said, you have to have something of value, because if you just knock on the door and introduce yourself as a realtor, and you don't have anything of value, then it just feels like you're soliciting. And we don't want to be a solicitor. We want to be a provider of market information, right? Because when you see that no soliciting, and people say, I have a no soliciting sign, then I say, well, I'm not soliciting, I'm providing market information for the neighborhood. Let me know if I can help in any way. I never go to a house that says no handbills, though, because that is what we do. So people are usually very nice, but every now and then you'll run into a really grumpy person, and just don't go to their house again if that happens. Respect that. If it doesn't happen often, most people are really super nice. So, and I've got, a couple agents with farm areas where they've closed like 6 or 7 deals out of their farm area, but like one neighbor chased them down the street. So they just don't go to that neighbor's house anymore. Like, whatever. I had in my farm area, I had one lady send my mail to the real estate commission and say, I did not ask for this. And they didn't call me. They kind of laughed about it, but it's like, whatever. But, some people are just grumpy, and just pass that house next time. But don't take it personally, because it's not you. It is, they don't like salespeople or whatever. So don't take it personally. But no matter what you're doing, you're going to get your best return from the people you know, your sphere of influence. You absolutely will. They like you, they trust you. And so when we're doing our business planning, that's why we look at how many people you need in your sphere of influence to meet your goals. Because for every 12 people where you have mind share, you should get a closing that year, either a referral or one of theirs. And that's why you want to create that mind share. It's so important, because you want at least 80% of your business coming from the people you know and their referrals, so that you're not always hunting and having to create new relationships. And we've talked about the Ford system and creating relationships when you're making your calls. And this is where it's actually written in the workbook. When you follow that path, and it's so easy to do, to talk with people, how is the family doing? How's the job? And right now, it's a really good time to talk about that. Have you been able to get to work? Or are you working from home? What's going on? Are you going to be able to get out and do anything fun this year? Or if there is something that you really would love to do when this is all over, what would it be? What's your dream? And then when you make notes on that and you have specific things about specific people, you can follow up. Like, so somebody says to you, I really want to go to Disney World when this is all over. And, that's our dream, is to take our family to Disney World. So then you could, on your next touch, maybe you see a little article on Disney World, or you go find something about Disney World and you send it to them and you say something like, I ran into this today. It made me think of you. And so people don't do that. That is something that you can do to build a personal relationship, because these people, they're going to be your friends and your family for years. I have people that I've done 16 plus transactions for. And now I've got one of them on my team, so that's probably not going to happen anymore. But I have a lot of people, like my husband, who's done 23 transactions with that investor family. These people, when you get a good relationship, it's like hitting a line of silver in a silver mine. It just keeps on going and keeps on going. So the building of the relationship is important, and the Ford conversation really helps you do that. Another thing the Ford conversation really helps you do is to identify somebody's style, because if they're talking a lot about their family, or they ask a lot of different types of questions, which is part of our class. The why questions tend to be S's, and what tends to be D's, and how tends to be C's. So there's conversations, and you can look at things like what they talk about, and then it helps you identify their style. So that is another great thing about the Ford conversation, that it lets you into some insight into what makes them tick, actually. And so has anybody used the Ford conversation yet with your people? It works pretty good. And then at the end, you're like, oh, by the way, if I can help anybody, if I can, help make their real estate problems get resolved, or their dreams come true, or however your script is, please pass their name to me. I'd love to help them and treat them like my own family. So, and you want to ask for them to pass their name to you instead of passing your name to them. because that always leaves you waiting. And you remember, your goal is to always try to keep the ball in your court. You want the action. So you want them to give you their name so you can make the call. And we talked a little bit about referral strategies earlier, and this is super important because if you're going to get 41 to 42% referral from your sphere on your listings and buyers, you want to be able to reward them for their referrals, and they actually kind of expect it, and they feel hurt if you don't. But there's a lot of legal restriction that we have on what we can do for referrals. So first of all, when you're going to refer people, when you want to get referrals, you want people to refer you, you first of all have to educate them, because they might think you're too busy. Really, they might think you're too busy for your referrals. And that's why you see like Brian Buffini's sticker says, and by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals, because they really do. When you're busy, they see you're successful, they're like, oh, I don't want to bother her. I won't worry about that. But you got to tell them. So first of all, you tell them you always have time for their referrals, that their referrals are the most important people that you can ever talk to. Your unique value proposition. So that is always helpful to really know what sets you apart when you're saying, you know, I really do well when I work with first-time buyers. So if you know somebody that doesn't understand how they can get into a home, I would love to help them navigate that path. Let me know, and I'll give them a call and see if I can help that dream come true. So you want to educate them, and you want to talk about your unique value proposition, and you want to tell them who's a good referral. So, and that's a great question. Bob Berg wrote a book called Endless Referrals. And one of the questions he says is the best question to ask if you're at a networking event is, how will I know if someone is a good referral for you? And that is a question you can ask anybody at a networking event. And they're going to tell you, well, a good referral for me would be X, somebody like this. And so the same thing, you're going to answer that question. What is a good referral for you? You can tell them, I would love to help somebody that doesn't understand how to get into a home. Maybe they need to be educated. Maybe they need a plan. I would love to help them make that dream come true. That's a good referral for me. Or maybe you're a luxury specialist and you're like, you know, I really enjoy getting out there and you know, I understand the neighborhood. I talk the lingo. So if you have somebody that really needs a specialist and they want somebody that can talk their lingo, I'm the person. And I would like to see if I can help them make it happen. So you identify that and you tell them who you're looking for. And then you ask for the business, please, you know, pass their name to me on every single marketing item that you have. And then reward. Okay, let's talk about the reward for a minute, because you're not legally even supposed to send them a Starbucks card. Anything monetary, you're not legally supposed to send them because it's a RESPA violation. And so what you can do, you can send them anything that is marketing type. So that's why like Costco has the referral, the you know, thank you for spreading the word, and it's a Costco knife and you have it customized with your name. You know, the handwritten note card is a great thing to do. One thing you can do also is take them to lunch or dinner. You can get, you know, as long as you're there, you can't give them a gift certificate for lunch or dinner, but you can take them. You can invite them to your client events. But what we like to do is we like to send them like an edible arrangement. You know, they're not going to be able to get on eBay and sell that. It's not a violation. So something like that. So when you're thinking of your referral gifts, think of something they can't sell. Or is not monetary. So like if you had, you know, cups or hats or anything with your brand on it, you could use that. But we like to do flowers. We like to do edible arrangements. Those are two that are really great referral gifts. And I will tell you that we have done a Starbucks card from time to time, but we never would say, here's a reward for the referral of this person. Our Starbucks card and our client events always just say, because you're such a special client of ours, we want to appreciate you. And we send them that, so it's not a RESPA violation. Does that make sense? They're so strict on this. And the title companies, you know, when you look at them, it's the same rules, really. We can't give away stuff either. They can't, it's the same thing. We can't give them dinner, but just like the title company, we can go to dinner with them. So stuff like that. Make sense?
Question on that. So
Yeah.
if you're, because that's really something as a new agent I've been working on, is my sphere of influence, and really putting, like last month I sent a mask, and as long as you're not saying like this is for a referral, you're
Absolutely.
right. So just an appreciation thing.
Yeah. So we do pop buys too.
Okay, so that's good with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and we mail them right now because we're nervous about going to their doors.
Right, and they don't want
yeah.
us to come to their door either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just makes people, they're a little weird right now. But the nice thing, I really love this though, when you're doing pop buys for real, when you get out there, most of the people we run into now have some kind of a door ring or something like that. So they actually see you. We're doing a pop by, and like my client will, start talking to me on their ring, and they're like, well, we're at the park right now, but it's really great to see you. I'm like, oh, hi, see you later. So those, yeah, that's fine, Janice. And that's a really good thing to do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's just the referral thing is paying somebody when they give you a name. That's all. So you can't do that. Unless you're paying Zillow or somebody like that. Those are a whole different thing. But you just can't pay your Aunt Betty or whatever to give you referrals. You can't. With that, you will run into it all the time where people are giving people rewards for referrals. And I tell you, your client will never turn you in. If you send them a $200 gift certificate to Amazon, they are not going to turn you in. But if they go tell their realtor friend that didn't get the listing, they might. So that's what you have to be careful of. We police each other, and we want to follow the law. We don't want to do things that are illegal. But I can tell you, if we ever make a stumble, and it will be another agent that turns us in. The real estate commission gets so many complaints, agent to agent. It's ridiculous. So, and especially when things are so competitive like this, it's crazy. So it's unfortunate. We need to be nicer to each other. So CRM programs, what are you guys using right now for your CRM?
I'm using the Vault and Boosh.
Good. Boosh?
I haven't been have much luck with Boosh. I got a huge spreadsheet that I need to probably get somewhere, but I like to have it all myself, I guess.
Yeah, okay, so it isn't as important what you're using, it's that you have one. And you could use a spreadsheet, although it isn't going to be as good as a program that will tell you who's most likely to buy or sell right now. So you really might consider doing something like First.io, Patrick, if you don't have, because you could send that spreadsheet to the people at First.io and they will upload it into the program, and then you'll get star ratings for all the people on that spreadsheet, which is really awesome. They'll tell you who to call. But I use Buffini. I also use the Vault, and eventually I'll use Boosh. I don't think Boosh, I'm not ready. It's not ready for me for what we do. Buffini's who I use right now, and Vault. I use those two, and they work great. I like the Vault has really awesome materials that you can send people. So I'm going to use the Vault even until it's not available anymore, and we have our own marketing material in Boosh if we ever go that route. I love the stuff that is in the Vault as far as marketing snapshots, the videos, community videos, and the things that you can put on your campaigns. Really good stuff in there. So I use that and Buffini. But the most important thing is that you have a CRM. And the CRM is a contact relationship management system. And so when you're building your business, it's important that you start building as much information as possible on the people that you work with, because that is your foundation, and that is why you'll have a sellable business later. The more information, the more history you have on all of your clients, then the more valuable your business is. And Steve Murray does say that your business is worth 4 times your trailing 12 months profit. So if you had a profit of $50,000 in the trailing 12 months, your business, if you were going to sell your book of business, your client database, would be about $200,000. Now, Judy Ledour has a whole program, a strategy for making that happen. And I would say it's great. You should listen to her strategy. But you want to get as much as you can in your database, because that's what makes it valuable. And so find a CRM and use it. The Vault is great for right now. Boosh is getting better every day. And then there's always the Buffini. Buffini is not expensive. It's $20 a month, but it has a ton of information there, and I love it. I pay extra for the email and the mail outs as a Buffini member, but it's a great program. That is really pretty much the referral and the sphere of influence part. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about farming, because farming is something that we all do, but a lot of people don't understand that because they're thinking of farming as just being geographical, but it's not. Your sphere of influence is actually a farm of all the people you know. So you farm anyway. Farming is just simply planting seeds and nourishing them and then reaping the rewards in different groups of people. So it can be demographical, geographical. Geographical is like your farm that is a geographical neighborhood. Demographical is, that's, something that like HR departments or something like that. And then there's special interests, like maybe horse clubs, book clubs, things like that. So those are different areas. The geographic is like the where, and you can choose to target different areas. Like if you're doing specific research for a client that wants to live in a specific area, you could farm that geographical area to find a property for that client. And that would be short-term farming. Or you could do long-term. Long-term farming, if you're just going to put your information and market to them, usually takes about 14 months to get a return. You've got to do it every single month for 14 months. But once you start getting a return, you should get about one sale, one closing for every 50 people that you touch every month. It's a 12-touch program. So after about 12 to 14 months, you should get one out of every 50. So if you have a database or a farm area of 200 people, after you've farmed them for a full year, then you can expect to get about 4 closings a year. You continue on that until you meet them. Now that's why door knocking is so important, because once you meet them and you develop that relationship, the conversion rates completely change. Once they trust you and you develop a relationship, it goes to the 1 in 12 and instead of the 1 in 50. And that's the whole reason why you want to do door knocking, neighborhood garage sales, neighborhood ice cream socials, different things like that, that you can do when we're not, under COVID stuff. So that is the where. And there have been some garage sales that you can do some things safely. You could do an ice cream social or something like that in your neighborhood. You could do it safely if you just make sure that everybody wore the mask and social distance, and you would want to be the highest level of restrictions so that you didn't end up on the news having a super spreader event or something like that. Make sense? So then there's the demographic. There's the who. Have you ever thought of like going to different corporate companies and providing pop buys at their HR department? I had a lady that came from the medical industry, and so she would go into the HR departments at UC Health and at different locations where she knew people, and she would leave fun things like bulbs, come grow with me, and different things like that. And she built quite a lot of business from farming that group of people. Like an HOA. Is anybody on your HOA as a member or president or an officer or anything? Yep, there you go, Patrick. So do they let you send anything?
I just got on. I haven't sent it, but we have properties. I've been sending stuff. My brothers and I have a few rentals in Fort Collins, and I send to our tenants. So
cool. Yeah. So that's a target farm. Absolutely. And that's great. Yeah. You having the rentals and your tenants, that is a lead generation tool right there. I have people that say, yes, you can absolutely get out of your lease if you buy your house through me. Right?
Yeah.
It works. And then you've got the, when you're looking at the demographic, you're looking at the who. There's a lot of different things. So your sphere of influence is a demographic, HR departments, out of town owners. Now that was one that my mom and I, we really farmed out of town owners. We inherited my grandmother's property in Naples for a short time. We kept it as a vacation rental, VRBO. And what we found is that we always had to go there every year on vacation to fix the house, and we got tired of going there, so we sold it. But what we found is that when we would get bills, we were there once for like 6 weeks, and we got a bill for the yard work that was done. They never came. We were there to see it. And so what happens with out-of-town owners is you can be of value to them to just really kind of, give them updates on their properties, take pictures, send them, things like that, because they don't necessarily know what's going on. And we found that out. And so that's something that you can do. And you can go into Realist and you can pull the out-of-town owners and create a database that way. So it's something that you can do. Or you can ask your title company to do it for you too. They're happy to do that kind of thing to get your business. Anybody in a chamber leads group?
I'm a Spanish speaker, and I approached the Chamber of Commerce, and they didn't actually have one. And all that stuff came kind of a screeching halt as soon as COVID.
Yeah.
But I've considered it. We did start kind of a Spanish-speaking professional group with lenders and other realtors and insurers and stuff. So we started that too, and unfortunately that all kind of came to a halt too. So we'll hopefully pick it back up.
That's awesome, Patrick. Hopefully on your profile too, you have that you speak Spanish, because that's awesome. I wish I had that. That's a great thing. And so, I was in a leads group for quite some time. The North Metro Chamber of Commerce, I was in a leads group there, and I probably closed 2 or 3 in a year from that leads group. The leads group, typically there's one realtor and a bunch of other people, and that's who you refer to. And that's kind of fun. But right now, we just have our own, and you can do your own, a business mixer. And so you put together your own group and you invite them. We're doing it on Zoom right now, our little business mixers. We're having a little business mixer happy hour next week with some of our connections. But you can put together your own leads group. You don't necessarily have to join and pay. You can do it yourself. And up until the COVID thing, we had a couple of leads groups that met in our lower level, where it's really, we've got that fireplace and the lounge area and kitchen. It's beautiful. So when things get back to being a little bit more normal, then you can come to the Westminster office and reserve our lower level entertainment area for nothing. We don't charge you. It's a great place. And there's that whole barbecue area and patio. So that's just a thing. But you can do your own. You can do your own leads groups. And that's totally a Tom Ferry thing. That's where I learned it. Where I really, not where I learned of it, where I engaged with it and found out that my limiting beliefs of it not being very effective wasn't true at all. It was effective. Even though these people know a ton of other realtors, getting them together and referring to each other created value. And so now we're at the top of their realtor list. So that's a cool thing. Foreign buyers, we do a huge amount of business with foreign buyers. I think that at one time we were getting like 16% were from China. Now, I'm not sure of those statistics right now, but if you are, I had a Chinese speaking agent, and she actually went to RE/MAX International and met with a Chinese delegation there to help RE/MAX International with the language barrier and different things like that. So she got a lot of business from that. And you've got to be able to speak a foreign language to do that. So Patrick, you can do that. If anybody speaks any other foreign language too, I would highly recommend that you put it on your profile, because that is a huge benefit. And I recommend that you tell all of your children to learn one. It's something I wish I would have done. First-time buyers are definitely a who. Investors are a who. And investors are a great group. If you're good with numbers and cap rates and things like that they need to know, they buy and they sell and they buy and they sell. That's awesome. And so if you're not good with investors, partner with somebody who is. It doesn't mean you have to team up, but get somebody that you co-op with to work with investors so that you can share. Builders are also another one. And I can tell you that you can get a lot of business from builders by being on their List Assist program. And the way that you do it is you build relationship. You choose a few neighborhoods that you really want to sell in. You go out there, you do pop buys to the on-site people, you develop relationship, you learn their contracts, you visit them often, and pretty soon you're starting to have that mind share with them. And they will think of you and they think of real estate, and pretty soon you get on their List Assist. And I've done several times back in the early 2000s. We were on Richmond's List Assist, and I think we did about 80 grand a year just by being on the List Assist there. So builders are another one. Anything else you can think of that is a group that is a demographical group to go after. That you don't have to answer, but think about it, because that is a target group, and you can have several different target groups. You only have to do one touch a month. You can email and you can mail. I like to mail or drop off my touch for my target group, except for one. One target group you should have is your realtor referral resources. And every time you meet a realtor in another town or another area, every time you go out of town, try to stop in a RE/MAX office and get somebody's card and meet them and build your referrals. I probably do 30% of my business from that. I get referrals from all over the state and all over the country. And that is because I've been really purposeful about making sure that I know who they are. Then I put them on a drip, a 12-touch drip right out of the vault. And it's, I am your Colorado real estate resource. And you don't want to share these people with each other, guys. This is your private team. If you go and you say, oh, here's my referral resource in Grand Lake, and then the person starts sending them a ton of business, your referral is going to want to send them business. So that's your team. You kind of have to be selfish with your team. So if you have a referral resource and you have a reciprocal relationship, and somebody asks you for a referral of somebody in that area, say, you know, there's somebody that I work with, but I would recommend that you call the office and get a referral up there. So that is the one time when I would say that as agents, we don't want to share everything we have, because I actually have experience with that. There's a lady in Grand Lake, her name is Susie Mackey, and her husband is actually the mayor there. And so she and I had a reciprocal referral relationship, and I started referring her out to my other agents. And now I don't get the referrals because there are other agents. I don't sell as much as some of the other agents because I'm in management too. And so I am not getting referrals. The people that are referring her are. So that's really up to you. If there's somebody you really want to help build their business, absolutely. But consider your team when you're building your referral database. And then there's the what. And this is where you run into a lot of people like in book clubs or investment groups. You can start your own. My husband, he has an investment group and he's got a stock club. And that is a great thing. So stock clubs, and he gets a lot of business from that. So those are things that you can do and you can put together on your own. Think of it, you know, even golf. Golf is a great way to meet people. Does anybody here golf? I mean, you don't even have to be good. You just take people out, and as long as you're polite, you don't throw your clubs and stuff, because you can always tell somebody's character on the golf course. But you know, you get out there and build relationships. The golf course is a great place to build relationships, and it's actually something you can do right now, and social distance. So golfing is good. Another thing, you know, we're doing an event with our team. We're doing a disc golf tournament. And so we can get together, we can stay 6 feet apart outside and do something together. So golf is good. What about light rail users? That is getting more and more popular. Some of these young people don't even have cars. Some of them don't even have driver's license. They don't want to. So have you ever tried to get out there and ride the light rail? Can you imagine what it might be to show property using the light rail? You could be the expert. Like, I haven't met that person yet, but I bet somebody's going to do that. Anyway, think of what can make you unique. And those are the type of things. So farming is what we all do. So if somebody ever says, do you farm? Absolutely, we farm, because if we don't have any leads. So you either farm geographically, demographically, or special interest, but ideally you want to have 3 or 4 different groups for that. And so think about that when you're building your systems. So you get these groups. Here's who you're going to farm. Then you put together your 12-month plan, you automate it, and then you start reaping the rewards. You're making your calls, you're making it happen. So when you're selecting your farms, so there are some things that you want to consider, and we're going to go into these just a little bit here. How are we doing on time? We got about 30 minutes. We're good. Okay, so these are the things you want to consider when you're looking at a farm. How many transactions do you want to close? Like I said, you know, 200 at best is going to give you 4 after 12 months if you haven't met them. So you know, think of your budget. Can you afford to do that for 12 months? Because you have to do it for the full 12 months. If you just do it every other month or once a quarter, you're not going to get the results. The results are based on the monthly, so you have to. And it's better to do a small group that you can afford to do well than a large group that you don't do well, because then you're just wasting your money. So the size is important. And location. If you're going to do a geographical area, you don't want to have to drive an hour to get there. So make sure that it's easy access and that you know something about it. So if you, like if you're going to want to farm a luxury neighborhood and you don't live there or you're not a luxury person, it's going to be harder for you to develop credibility for that. So think about that. Inter-farm management, that's just basically, if you're going to pick a geographical farm and you're going to farm it and you're going to do it long-term and you're going to be the realtor of record, like Maggie Brown has been in Sheridan Green since I was in high school, and she still is. Her daughter came into the business, and her daughter is Lisa Couch, and now they're the Brown Couch team, which is hilarious. But anyway, I've known them forever. But inter-farm management, so if you have like a geographical area and you've got like, you know, $600,000 houses, and you got $300,000 or $400,000 houses, and then you've got, you know, condos or something, so that you can move people up in your geographical area. Because if you watch HGTV, you notice that typically the people that, you know, listed or love it or whatever, if it's location, it's always, almost always location. No matter how great the house is, they want to stay in the same location. So you want to have opportunities in your own farm areas. Like you're talking to somebody, you know, that lives in a condo, and you're like, you know, they really want to get into a house. And then you have this, well, there's this, you know, of another seller that might want to sell. Well, then you can call that seller and say, hey, I might have somebody that would be interested in your home. Are you thinking of selling? And then you can work that together and get two deals for one. So that's why you really want that inter-farm management, so you can work them together.
You know,
the average sales price, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So I actually started doing that. I went to your class in January, which was a fantastic class on business planning. And so I started farming in March with the understanding that, yeah, it takes like 12 to 24 months, but I did most of it just like on my own area, right? Because I know my neighborhood. Yeah. And just doing door-to-door drop-offs, right? On little bags that I bought at Amazon. And I actually had a really great response on Saturday. I was out in my front yard working, and a lady was walking by, just walking, and I said, hi, good morning. And then she stopped and said, are you Janice? And I said, yeah, I am. And she said, oh, I live. And she, you know, told me that she lived, and she's about probably 6-7 blocks away from me, and said, I get your stuff. And I was like, little bit of positive feedback.
That's awesome, Janice. But
I think at least that's a little bit of positive, that they know who you are in the neighborhood. So that's good.
That's right. Good for you. That's fun, because then once you start building that reputation and your credibility, then you get the mind share. And that's exactly how Hobbs Herder did it. They sent out with the fictitious people, and then they came back to see who people would choose. They did the survey, who they would choose as their realtor, and it was the fictitious person that they knew the name. So
I hope that's the case.
You're right, and you're real. So they get a real person. But that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Another thing that you want to think about when you're choosing your farm is the sales prices. So if you're going to choose a farm that is like, you know, in the million price range, the turnover is terrible. And so you're really better off going with bread and butter for the majority of your targeting is the averages, so that you can get more business that way. Knowing the turnover rate is hugely important. Like in a geographical area, we want at least a 10% turnover rate, and we don't want competition, really somebody that has more than 30% market share there. And you can just pull the stats off of RE Colorado or IRIS and get that information. And then your knowledge, that's another thing that's really important. So if you're going to farm, let's say you're going to farm, there's a lot of equestrian groups out there. And let's say if you wanted to farm an equestrian group, you better have a horse or know something about them, right? for credibility. So that's the whole thing there. And then there's you. You know, do you really want to do it? Are you going to be consistent? Are you going to, you know, be able to execute for the 12 to 14 months or even 24, like Janice was saying, because it is long term. So you have to think about that. Don't start something and then do it half-ass and quit, because you just waste your money. Make sense? Cool. And so there's a couple videos here that I love. This is on page 9, Farming the Community in the Neighborhood with Becca Linnick. And as she has impeccable service, which is hilarious, but it's funny because she's in a really a vacation type community there in Scottsdale, but she gets involved in like the Chamber of Commerce and different things like that. And so you want to think, it's just a really great little video about her block parties and different things like that. It's fun, great ideas. And that's what you want. You want to be number one. You want them to think of you when they think of real estate. And so you've got to have your unique value proposition so you can tell them why you're the best person for the job. That's your elevator speech. Your reputation, super important. NAR shows that that's what sellers really look for. And so your reputation is important. And that's why when you take listings, you don't want to take listings overpriced just to have a listing, because then it's not going to sell. And your reputation is going to be, you know, days on market too long and somebody else took the listing. So think about that. You know, what are you willing to sacrifice in your relationship in order to get the listing? Draw the line. Like, I will not take a listing that is, you know, like more than 5% above what it should be. And if I do take it at what it should be, I want an agreement that we're going to have price reductions if it hasn't, or price improvements if it hasn't gone under contract within X amount of time, so that you can actually make sure that you keep your reputation. And your reputation with realtors matters too. Have you noticed that there's some really creepy ones out there? And there are. And when you get an offer from one of those people, you usually kind of hope that it goes on the bottom of the stack. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the person that when they get an offer from you, they're like, oh, this is from Patrick. This means we're going to have a good transaction. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is a good agent. I would consider this one at least, you know, based on being a legitimate deal. So the best contract is the one that is most likely to close, not the one necessarily that is the highest price. And so you as an agent are a factor in making that contract the most likely to close. So that's your reputation and your value. Actually, your value is hugely important to get that to the closing table. And so different ways that you can show your value in your farm areas. And it is sort of like doing your social ice cream events, different things that you can do to get out there and meet people. But giving value to people is something that they need, not necessarily something that you need. So in my farm area, I noticed when I was doing some drop-offs that half the people here have this horrible cracked, you know, stair that leads up. I live in Stratford Lakes. So, and all the stairs are cracked going up to the stairs. They're horrible. That we need cement work and we need mud jacking bad in our neighborhood. So I went out and I made a deal with a cement guy and a mud jacker, and I got discounts. And then I did coupons and I went around and I provided those to my next drop off that I did. And so that's a way of value that we would, that, you know, you think about what would be actually used by them. We do the shred. A lot of people do a shred event in their neighborhood. We're doing it at the office, but you know, yard cleanups, food drives. Be careful with food drives. And I would say if you do a food drive, it's really fun to do in your neighborhood. You can take, like, you can go to King Soopers or the grocery store, Safeway, of the neighborhood, and they'll donate the brown bags to you. Then you do a little flyer that says, here's what we're collecting. I'll be here on X day to pick it up off your porch. And then you go and you drop the brown bags on all the porches, and then you go back on the day you said and pick them up. But I would say be sure to wear a realtor shirt or a realtor hat or have a realtor sign on your car, because they think you're a porch pirate when you're running up and grabbing things off of people's porches. So be careful. People taking your picture and like, so you want to have your realtor hat on and show all of your credentials that day. And then, I don't know, does anybody use Nextdoor? I don't like Nextdoor. It's so negative. I think it's the complaining platform for everybody whose dog pooped and who didn't pick up their, trash and stuff like that. And it's like people have too much time on their hands right now to complain. But I do like the neighborhood Facebook pages and things like that you can get involved in. They're kind of fun. But there's a lot of ideas you can have. And I say that getting involved in the HOA, like Patrick is doing, is a really great way to learn the neighbors and learn the neighborhood and bring value. It takes some of your time, but it provides a whole group for you, and people get business from that. So go for it, Patrick. Good luck. And so as far as being the market expert, you have to know, if you have a geographical area, you better know what's going on with the HOA. You better know what's going on with the taxes. You better know what's going on with the city. You have to be the expert, because if you're the person that you're saying the expert in the neighborhood and they call you and they say, hey, there's all these signs going up that there's some construction going to happen. What's going on? And if you don't know, go find out and say, well, let me find out. I'll get right back to you. You want to be the resource for them. And that just takes a little time. That's why it's important that you have easy access to your farm. If you're trying to get business from something that is so far away that it's inconvenient to get there, it makes it really challenging because you have to be seen. And one of the things that one agent did that I thought was really cute, she's a golfer, but she had a custom golf cart made with her logos, and then she'd go around her neighborhood in a little golf cart. She had little flags. It's like, how cute. So, that might not be something we can afford quite yet, but if you're a golfer and you have a golf cart, why not customize it and use it for business, and then you can write off some of it too. So, but being seen is important. So being in the HOA and doing client events and just being a part of the neighborhood, your neighborhood realtor, there's some great scripts in here for door knocking and asking people. You say stuff like, I'm just out in the neighborhood today and I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm your neighborhood. I'm a neighbor and a realtor. And I was just, looking at the neighborhood, trying to think, this is a great neighborhood. What do you love about this neighborhood? And, it's just normal conversation. You're not knocking on the door saying, I'm a realtor and I'm looking for business. Do you have something for me today? This is about relationships. So there's some great scripts in here for door knocking. And so a typical marketing plan, and this is back in the business planning as well, but you want to do at least like a print piece every month to your farm. And if you have email, do that too. It's hard to get farm email though. But First IO really helps with that. And also there's another resource. What is that? I'm having a brain fart. So let me think of it here in a minute. It is, you can go to people.com. I can't believe I'm having a brain fart right now, but anyway, I'll think of it here in a minute. But it's a program where you can go in and put in their information. BEN Verified, that's it. BEN Verified, BEN verified.com. And I have a subscription there. It's like $26 a month. And I can go in and I can put in a name and like the state, and it'll bring up all of the contacts. I can usually find them, and it'll give me email addresses, phone numbers, like social sites and things like that. And so there is, benverified.com is a great way to find people and their information if you don't have it. Look yourself up. That's pretty interesting. Look yourself up on benverified.com or people, PIPL.com.
I've been told also title companies can sometimes help you out with contact info.
Sometimes they can. There are some phone numbers too in those databases. So they can help. Your title company is awesome for being a resource for you. But that's really, I say hold one event a year. So maybe door knock so that you meet the people like every 6 months, and do a neighborhood event like a garage sale or a social or a shred or something like that. So it gives you the opportunity to get face to face, because every time that you do that and you build rapport with the people, you're improving your conversion rates so that you can get to that 1 in every 12 instead of 1 in 50 and increase your business. All right, so we're going to talk about open houses for about the next 15 minutes. And let's see, so We're going to cover a little FSBO and expired at the end. Those are their lists. Let's just talk for about 10 minutes on open houses, because open houses, you know, the really purpose of an open house is for you to meet a client, right? There's only a 1% chance that you'll ever sell a house in an open house. And so that you've got to decide why you're doing it. So if you're looking for seller leads, you know, you're going to do it a little differently. You're going to do a going away party for the neighborhood, for the seller. And there are a lot of ideas in here as far as that goes. A neighborhood lunch is really great. You can't do any of this right now, though. There's no food or anything allowed, even now that we can do open houses. But there are different times you might want to do it, and this would apply right now. So if you're going to try to attract people on the weekend, if people are going out early to take their kids to different games and stuff, put a sign on your listing that says like open 11 to 3 or whatever. So when they're driving through the neighborhood and they see the sign and they're driving through at 8 in the morning, that they come back at 11, because if they don't, they go through at 8 and then the soccer game's over at 1 and your open house was 11 to 1, they totally missed it. So those little magnetic open Saturday, and then they have a little dry erase, blank to blank. You can pick them up at the board or any real estate. Those are great advertisers for your open houses. But you can do them at any different time. So I like to do open houses too on Friday afternoon, wine and cheese, when people are coming home like 4 to 6. It's a great time to do an open house. Most people are really typical doing them on weekends, but think outside the box, because then you'll get more than just the typical people on the weekend. You really will get the neighbors and the people that might be interested in the property. If there are a lot of listings in a neighborhood, which we really don't have much of right now, but we'll come back to that probably about the time COVID is over, and doing parade of homes. So you can get together, like say there are 4 or 5 listings in a neighborhood. And when I was first in the business in the early 80s or mid 80s in Austin, Texas, we took listings. It took about 2 years to sell a listing. And so we got to know them really well. And we were usually starving because it took so long. So we would get together with other agents and we would do like a parade of homes. And we'd say, okay, you're going to do the dessert and you're going to do the salad, you're going to do the main dish, you'll do the beverage. And then we'd get together and have a prize. And they would go to every house and then they'd get in the drawing for the prize. And we would go together as agents to do that. But the other cool thing was we did it also as broker opens. And so we would really get a lot of exposure for our listings with the other agents out there. And we got to eat at the same time. So it really did create a win-win situation. But, you know, I've seen a lot of people do those parade of homes in a regular market. And it's just when you get together with other people in the neighborhood and try to attract people using your cumulative resources. So that can be a really fun thing to do for an open house. And so let's see here. So the 3 steps for your open house: to prepare and promote. So you don't want to just fly by the seat of your pants. You want to really prepare. And then you do the open house, you do it professionally, and then your follow-up. So those are the 3 different stages. So first of all, you decide, do you want to attract seller leads or buyer leads? Because there's 2 different ways you do it. If you want the seller leads, you might do the neighborhood luncheon, and then for buyer leads, open it up to everybody else. The right property is super important. The location, it needs to be easy to find. Just because it's a listing that's active doesn't mean it's a good open house. You don't want more than 4 turns to get there from a major street if you can help it, because that people will get lost and they will end up at somebody else's open house. Also, time on the market. You don't want a house that's been on the market for a long time. Ideally, you want it to be in the first few weeks in the splash period so that you can get the activity. But when you get an open house that's been on the market, you have a house that's been on the market a couple, 2-3 months right now, then people wonder what's wrong and why it hasn't sold. So, and the neighbors have already seen it, and you're not going to get a lot of activity. So if you're looking for open houses to do, look at time on market. The price, is it priced well? You don't want to do an open house that's overpriced, because then people are going to come in and they're going to think you're nuts. So, you know, you want to be careful about that. And then any special features or unusual things. Like I had this one house once that it had a big, huge tree in the yard, and you kind of couldn't see the house. And every time I would do an open house there, I would see people drive up and go. They didn't even want to come inside. And so you want to make sure that the open house that you're doing has street appeal that will bring people in. So don't just take any open house that people want you to do, because this is your time and you only have the same amount of time that everybody else does. So if you're doing an open house, make sure it's one in an area you want to work, because I made the mistake of doing a lot of open houses in Littleton. I live in Westminster. I have a huge database now in Littleton, and so I have to drive there. And I've transferred them now to other people. But when I was fully active on my team, I had to drive there, and I wish that I hadn't developed so much business far away. So think about that. Do open houses where you want to work, and if you have a listing that's far away, get somebody else to do that open house where they want to work, and you focus on somebody else's listing, maybe in your area. So that's open houses are to build your business. And if you have a seller that really wants one and you don't want to do an open house there, you can find somebody else, or you might talk to them about the fact that there's only 1% of houses that actually sell at open houses. And if they're looking to get their house sold at an open house, maybe it would be better if you did some Facebook ads and things like that if you're not wanting to do it. You can spin it both ways. If you want to do it, you can say, yes, Mr. and Miss Seller, I know that only 1% of the people do buy a house at an open house, but there's a good chance that I'll be able to get them today because I'm going to be very aggressive, and your house hasn't been seen. And all neighbors come in, 25% of the neighbors have a referral. So you can use your scripts either way. You want to do the open houses or you don't. You'll find sellers that like them and that don't. So you can make it work for you both ways. Okay. So as far as getting prepared, you want to make sure that you know the area. If it's somebody else's open house, print out all the MLS, know the active listings, know what's under contract, know everything day of the open house, because they'll come in and they'll say, what about that house down there? In one class, I ran into a lady, and what she would do is when she was doing an open house, when our open house was over, like say at 3, so from 3:15 to 4:15, she had a window scheduled where she could do showings. Then people that came into her open house, if they're like, well, if this house isn't a right fit, maybe you'd like to see this one over here. Meet me there at 3:15. I have an appointment already to show it to you. And so she would do that to other homes in the neighborhood and then set up those showing appointments at her own open house. And she killed it. So she's in DTC. I think she made it. She's doing a great job. Neighborhood information. I do an NAR RPR report on the property, and I have that with me, the full property report. So I have all the demographics. I've got everything I need to know about that neighborhood that I can show right there. Area maps is great to have. And a property financing sheet, your lender. And I know for sure HMA has an easy program where they will get in and do flyers for you for your open house. And many of them will go with you. And we're going to talk about that in a second too. So those are the things you want to have when you're prepared. And I always like to have an open house kit so that I'm ready to go. And here's what you would put in here. Well, you wouldn't put food and snacks right now, but you could have a takeaway that they could take with them, and no beverages right now. But the sign-in sheets and these different things, balloons are great to get attention. Directional signs, you want to have that, and that is, the most important thing getting people to the open house. You want it to be easy. What business cards, your personal branding items, all that kind of stuff. And I say have a giveaway. And it can be simple. People even want to win a $5 Starbucks card or $25 Home Depot card that you use as the giveaway for 3 different open houses that month. It's totally legal to do that, you guys. You can't call it a raffle. To do a raffle, you have to have a license, but you can do a giveaway. And when people are giving you their contact information and they think they might win something, you have a much better chance of getting accurate information instead of like, MickeyMouse.com or bendover@gmail.com, something like that. So you get a lot of fake stuff in your sign-in sheets. And when you give a prize that they want you to be able to contact them, you typically will get more accurate information. And people it doesn't even have to be expensive. People like to win little things too. So that works. Here's another thing. Cinnamon and a cookie sheet. I love to have that in my open house kit because I might go into a house and what if they cooked fish the night before and it stinks? Well, you can go in, you can turn the oven on 170 warm, put your cinnamon on your cookie sheet, stick it in the oven, and all of a sudden it's fresh baked cookies. So that is a real quick fix for a stinky house. So I keep cinnamon and a cookie sheet always in my open house kit. Okay.
I got a
yeah.
I got a trick that a veteran realtor showed me, and he calls it the questionnaire. So basically, you have the people coming through the open house rate the house on price, favorite, least favorite, things of that, and then you have them. They can put their contact info on there. I found that to be very successful because it kind of gets them involved.
Yeah. So in your kit, I like that, Patrick. Thanks for bringing that up. In your stuff, it is this sheet that is like what you're talking about, and we put them on the little mini clipboards. And what it does is it gives them to rate the price, the condition, their favorite feature, their least favorite feature, and get them engaged. And so that's in your materials. And I have used iPads, I've used single sheets. This is the one. And then I use this also as the drawing slips. And I've found it to be really effective. So that's in your packet. So thanks for bringing that up and sharing that. That's awesome. So once you've decided where you're going to go, you have your house picked and you know what you're going to, you got to promote it. And there's a couple good ways you can do that. Door knock the neighborhood, 10 this way, 10 this way, 10 this way, 10 this way. Invite them. That is a great way to get the information out there to actually, especially if you're going to do a neighborhood lunch. But Facebook ads are a great way to promote your open house. And so if you do it, I think they say people are most often on Facebook between 9 and 11 in the morning. And so that's when you would want to do it, and maybe a live video. But I'll tell you, don't ever say I, say we. Be careful. Don't ever get the impression that you're alone at a house, because that's dangerous. And yeah, just make sure that you don't, because the most recent assault that I know of in Colorado was in Boulder against a man, and there was one last week in another state against a man. So men are not exempt from being vulnerable if you're alone in a house. So keep that in mind. So Facebook and social media is a great way to advertise, but your number one thing is your signage. So I say have custom open house signs made that have your name on them, because that is also going to give you some market share. That branding is important, and it also means that other agents won't steal them. And I hate to say that, but it does happen. When you have those really fancy, nice A-frame, expensive signs that don't have your name on them and they disappear, many times it can be that somebody just wanted them. So if you do an open house in certain cities, so do know sign codes in the cities, like in Thornton, if you put your sign too close to an intersection, the city will pick it up and throw it away. They will not give it back to you. So make sure that you know sign codes. Thornton is the worst around Denver. I don't know anybody as bad as that. So you can go to their city site and just look up sign code there and you'll find out. And it says, it has to be back 50 feet or whatever. And make sure that you follow that, or you could lose your signs. You want a lot of signs. Think of builders and how many signs they put up. Signs. So you want to have like 10 to 20 signs for your open house. And that seems crazy, right? But that's why people hate doing open houses, because they hate putting up signs. Really, that's true. So if you have any teenagers, it's a great little bribery tool. I used my teenagers. I raised 3 in real estate. I bribed them all the time. I still do. They're grown now, but I still bribe them. And so I like to put out the several days in advance. I already talked about this, the open Saturday or whatever, so that you can get people to come when they see your sign during the week and you're not there. Directional signs, you want to make sure you don't have more than the 4 turns if you can. You want a major intersection if you can. And let's say that you need to put a sign in somebody's yard. I carry around like Yankee Candle or a Woodwick candle that I can give somebody as a gift. I never would put a sign in somebody's yard. And I know a story about somebody that did put a sign in somebody's yard and they didn't get permission and they found their sign in the middle of the street all run over. So you don't want to do that. If you're going to put a sign, you need somebody's yard or the corner of their yard, knock on the door and ask them if it's okay, and then give them a gift. And I can tell you that I got a sale out of doing that one time. And I sold that person a house too. So that was pretty cool. That's just having respect. And so when you're doing your signage, you want it to be as much as possible, as simple to follow as possible, and branding. And then as for advertising, it's online. That we used to put it in the paper. back in the day, but we didn't have online when I started. But right now you can put it in homesincolorado.com, you can put it in remax.com, realtor.com, you can advertise your open house. I even think there's a Facebook page like Denver Open Houses or something like that that you can put out there. But Facebook really probably is the best way to advertise it, and through Homes in Colorado, putting it on there. But online advertising is the key to making sure that everybody's going to know about it, and going around door to door for the neighbors, because so many people refer, neighbors do, for people to go. And then I would say every time you're doing it, send a note out to your sphere of influence. Say, I'm doing an open house at this property. If you know of anybody, I'd love to see them. If you're in the neighborhood, stop by and say hello. It's a success piece. You want your sphere of influence to see that you're busy and that you're working, and think of you as a realtor. And the more they see you doing realtor activities, the more they're going to think of you as their realtor. So another thing you can do, which is probably easier than door knocking right now and dropping off invitations, is mailing your invitations. And you can get a mailing list or labels from the title company for fairly cheap. You can also go into Realist and do them yourself. That's what I do. You know, my farm area changes so often, and I always want to have accurate information. I'll go and I'll print out my labels from the most current, I update that way. So I always have the current information. But you can go to Realist, you can select the area and print labels. You can eliminate the ones you don't want and check them and print. It's super easy. So that is something you can do, but you can also ask your title company and they'll do it for you for like 20 bucks. So once you've done all your promotion, you get up there and you do the open house. And this is really important because you want your timing to be good. You don't want to get there and have people waiting at the door. It's not a good way to begin your credibility. So get there early and go in the house first of all. Don't put up any signs. Go in the house and make sure it looks good. Make sure, like, if you need to do dishes or if it stinks, or, you know, you turn on all the lights and make it look like a show home, you get it ready. If you're doing it on a Sunday and the Bronco game is on, you better put that Bronco game on the TV, because that is going to be what people want to know. That way, if they come in and you've got, you know, some of the parties that want to see the game, they can kind of hang around the TV while you're selling to the other person. It works really well. And also make sure that valuables are out of sight. If I go into an open house, I have a brown bag, and if I see things that are you know, valuables laying out, I'll put everything in the brown bag, and then I'll leave it for the seller. I say, these are all the items I picked up that I felt were left out, and you should probably leave them concealed for showings as well. And so that just, I've had people go in, to steal prescription drugs and things, people do that. So you want to keep an eye on people. And that's another thing. And that's easier right now with COVID, because you can only have one set at a time. But when you are doing an open house outside of this COVID, and you get like 4 or 5 groups of people that come in the house at once, and you can't follow every one of them. And that's when they'll get into the cabinets and steal. So you gotta watch out for that. And so get everything ready. If you're doing drinks, you're doing your lunch, and make everything look perfect. And then go set up your signs. And you go from the furthest sign all the way to the door. And so that the one that's your last sign that you're putting out is open, come in, and you are ready to go. You're open for business. And then when people start coming, you don't want to be the agent in the corner that's like, let me know if you have any questions. You don't want to be that person. So you greet people, you build rapport. You're going to give them a home tour. Remember, feature benefit selling. You're not going to say, here's the kitchen, you know, those types of things. And remember to stay between the door and them at all times so that you have an escape. That's your safety measure. Don't let them trap you in the house. You know, as far as groups of people, you're not going to have to work with that right now, but I think it's really good to have another person with you at the open house. You can a lot of times get your HMA person or your other lender, or even another realtor that wants to shadow or to do together. You can trade on the one-up system. But it's safer to have more than one person in your open house, safer for your client and safer for you. So if you can, try to get somebody to do it with you. And then remember, you have a goal. Your open house, you're not there to sell the house. You're trying to meet people. You might try to sell the house, but here's your goal. You want to either close for a follow-up. Remember, you want the ball in your court. So you want to be able to provide them, and this is if they are not working with another realtor, You want to be able to provide them information. So you find a reason to do that. Oh, you want information on that listing? Well, I'll send it to you this afternoon as soon as I'm done with the open house. And you get their contact information and you've got the next action. If you can't do that, maybe you can close for an appointment to show them the property maybe down the street. Or maybe you've talked to them and they don't have a pre-qual and you're going to have your lender call them. So those are your goals. You want the follow-up. You want the follow-up. So that's the goal of the open house, is to have something to do. So don't try to not have something to do, because if the follow-up is they're going to call you, they're not going to call you, okay? Rarely, like maybe 5% of the time they'll call you. So I really highly recommend that you always try to keep the ball in your court in every communication that you're doing with your people. Try to keep it. And so what if nobody comes to the open house? Well, that can happen, but take something to do, but just make sure that it's not phone calls, because somebody will come when you're making a phone call. But it's a great time to write thank you notes and personal notes and things like that when people aren't there. And then afterwards, you want to clean up and follow up. And I always leave a nice note for the seller. You know, we had a lot of people or we didn't, and tell them kind of what happened. If it's another agent, I will also leave a really nice note for them, and I'll give them all the feedback. You want to be sure that you do give the feedback to the other agent, because if you're building your business with open houses and you don't have listings, you want to be a really good open house resource for them, which means you always show up, you give feedback, you're professional, and you do it well. And if you do that, then you will be the go-to person for those listing agents that need open houses. And that is how I built my business, doing open houses. I was in Amherst, and the listing agent was not me. Every time she'd send a mailer, she would get new listings and she'd call me to hold them open. So I always had a ton of business from her farm, which is great. So doing them for other people can be really a benefit. And then I know we're at time, so I just want to cover really quick FSBOs and expires. We talked about it during the session, but there are 3 things that are challenges for both FSBOs and expires. It's the price. If it's a for sale by owner, they didn't know how to price it. If it's an expired listing, the agent didn't price it right, or they let the seller not price it right. If it's property condition and preparation, if it's a FSBO, they didn't know how to prepare it. If it's an expired in its condition, the agent didn't know how to price it or how to have them prepare it. And if it's a FSBO, they didn't know how to attract buyers. And if it's an agent, an expired, the agent didn't know how to market it correctly to attract people. So really the challenges are very similar with a for sale by owner and an expired listing. The thing is that it's where there's a lot of activity. So you want to have thick skin if you're going to go after either one, and you can do it. Typically, if you are good and you go past 5 rejections, you have to go past 5 rejections to convert 3 out of 10, okay? But if you've got thick skin, you can do it. Most people stop at 2 rejections. Like 99% of people stop at 2 rejections. It takes 5 rejections. So you think of it this way. For the first 4, you're like if you're getting a $10,000 paycheck from this deal, so you're gonna have to get 4 rejections before you get the yes. So it's thanks for the $2,500. Thanks for the $2,500. Thanks for the $2,500. So think of every rejection as closer to your paycheck, okay? Instead of rejection. It really helps. But your goal when you're prospecting both of them is either you want to take the listing, if it's a for sale by owner or an expired. You want to sell the home to a buyer. You might want to sell the home to a for sale by owner. So you're contacting them, telling them you have a buyer, and you darn well better, because they can see right through it if you don't. And you might want to help the seller on a for sale by owner or even expired. What are they doing next? Because they might need an agent for their buy side. So those are all 3 things you can do. And the way that you approach them, this is when I was talking direct or indirect. So let's go to the next page. Once you know where you're going, you can call first and call often. That's direct. Some people are super comfortable just doing that. And then you've got the indirect, which is sending them some information and then following up. That's the indirect approach. And so those are ways that you can do it. Your follow-up, there's a sample 8x8 here. So once you make contact, keep making contact 8 times until you get the deal. And that is the end of our class. So here's your action items. You still have your 5 calls, your conversations, and your thank you notes. All of your previews, visiting your open houses, maybe do virtually, and view your resources in MyRU for some of these videos that we have that are really great. And I just want to say that it's been a pleasure to talk with you and to teach this class on Zoom. I want to be a resource for you, so just a couple of things. I'm going to be sending out the editable docs so that the things that we have here, you can make your own with your own logos and that type of thing. Dan's social class is the 16th from 10 to 11. I'm going to send you a reminder. It's awesome. And then Jessica does the mortgage class, and it's really important to understand how to use those scripts to help people know that they don't need 20% down to get their next mortgage. And then I'll also send you some information on getting your own disc done. Consider me a resource always. I always welcome your calls, and I will look forward to our next opportunity. If you want to take the business planning class again, I'm going to get another date out there so I can record it right. But it's been a pleasure, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Sorry we went a little over today.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you. Good luck. Bye-bye.